You think words will save you, huh? That if you just say the right things, scream loud enough, someone will hear you, come rushing in to fix all the pieces they shattered. That's cute, real cute. But let me break it to you, kid. No one's listening. Not really. People only hear what makes them feel good, what strokes their ego or justifies their pathetic little lives. All that pain you carry, all those nights staring at the ceiling, tongue heavy with words you never say. It ain't 'cause you're weak. It's 'cause you finally started to get it. Words are cheap, real cheap. They've been selling them since the dawn of time, and no one's buying anymore. Silence, though, now, that's a different breed of weapon. When you go quiet, they get nervous. They start wondering what you know that they don't. Your silence makes them itch, makes their minds run wild, trying to fill in the gaps. See, words give the game away, but silence makes them question every move, every smile, every knife they stuck in your back. It makes them remember that even a snake waits in the grass without a hiss. You keep your mouth shut long enough and they'll be the ones tearing themselves apart. Take a look around. This world's a circus. But the clowns don't even know they're wearing paint. They babble on about loyalty, love, honesty. Big words from empty mouths. The truth is, they want you quiet so they can keep lying. They want you broken so they can keep winning. Every time you speak, you give them something to twist, to use, to throw back in your face. You think honesty's a virtue? Nah, kid, it's a noose. The less you say, the tighter it gets around their necks. You ever notice how the ones who did you the dirtiest are the first to say, "We need to talk"? Oh, that's rich. They don't want to talk. They want to unload their guilt, wipe their hands clean on your forgiveness. It's a scam, and you ain't buying it anymore. Silence is how you make them choke on their own regrets. You keep your mouth shut and your eyes open, and you watch them squirm under the weight of everything they did to you. Make them wonder what you know, what you're planning, why you ain't breaking like they expected. And that pain you carry, the kind that digs in deep, makes your hands shake when no one's looking. That's not a weakness. That's power. Raw, unfiltered power. See, most people run from pain, drown it in bottles or prayers, or someone else's bed. But you wear it like armor. The trick is to stop trying to explain it. Stop trying to make them understand, 'cause they won't. They can't. Your pain ain't their problem. It's your fuel. You want to make them regret ever crossing you? Make them watch you rise without a word, without a damn explanation. They'll hate it. People can deal with tears and shouting. They're used to that. What they can't handle is silence. Silence makes them face the truth they've been running from, that they ain't the hero of your story. They're the villain who lit the match and laughed while you burned. So stop explaining Stop defending. Let your silence do the talking. Watch how fast they come running, desperate to know what you're thinking, what you're planning. But they won't get a word. Not a single satisfying word. And don't even get me started on forgiveness. They push that stuff like it's some miracle cure, like if you just forgive them, you'll be free. What a joke. Forgiveness ain't freedom. It's surrender. They want you to forgive so they can sleep at night, so they don't have to face the monster in the mirror. But you ain't handing them that comfort. Let them choke on the silence, on the fact that some things you just don't forgive. Not because you're bitter, but because you finally respect yourself enough to walk away without a backward glance. You know what they fear most? That one day you'll stop talking, stop explaining, stop trying to make them understand, and just disappear. No warnings, no goodbyes, just gone. The silence you leave behind will haunt them more than any speech ever could. They'll search for you in every face, every voice, and come up empty. That's how you win. Not by getting even, but by getting up, quietly, coldly, and moving on. So keep your mouth shut. Let them wonder. Let them fear. Your silence will speak what words never could. And when they finally realize what they've lost, when the silence becomes deafening, don't you dare break it to tell them they're right. Just smile, turn your back, and let the silence be the last thing they ever hear. And that's the real beauty of silence, ain't it? It doesn't just leave them guessing, it leaves them alone. You stop explaining yourself, and suddenly they're left with nothing but their own thoughts, their own guilt chewing through their skulls like rats in the walls. Silence is a mirror, kid, and it makes them stare at the mess they made without you there to soften the blow. The longer you keep quiet, the louder their regrets get. You can almost hear it, can't you? The way they start to second guess every lie, every knife they slipped between your ribs with a smile. The truth is, most people can't handle silence because they can't handle themselves. They need the noise, the lies, the excuses, the pretty words, just to drown out the screams in their own heads. And you've survived worse. Nights when the quiet was so loud it damn near drove you mad. When every breath felt like swallowing glass, and all you had were shadows on the walls and voices in your head reminding you of everything they took. You survived that, alone. And now they think a few words are gonna make it right? Please. Silence is your language now. Words are for cowards, people who need to be understood, to be forgiven, to be loved. But you ain't playing that game anymore. You've outgrown it. Silence is for the ones who've learned that explanations are just confessions, and confessions are just weapons in the wrong hands. See, they expect you to break. They count on it. That's why they push all those sweet lines about how you need to open up, talk about your feelings, let it all out like some damn therapy session. They don't want to hear you, they want to disarm you. Every word you give them is just more ammo. Your fears, your doubts, all that pain you've been bottling up. They'll twist it, use it, make it another knife to sink in when you least expect it. But silence? Silence leaves them empty-handed, makes them nervous, makes them realize they don't have a clue what's going on behind those eyes of yours. They can't stand that. People hate what they can't predict, what they can't control, and nothing's more out of their control than a man who's learned to keep his mouth shut. You know how wolves hunt? They pick out the one that limps, the one that whines, the one that bleeds. The moment you start explaining yourself, you might as well be painting a target on your back. Your silence, though, that's how they know you ain't prey no more. That's how they start to realize maybe they picked the wrong fight. You don't need to bark to show your teeth. You don't need to bleed to make them afraid. Just let the silence stretch out, cold, unblinking, until they start to question who they really should be fearing. Trust me, kid, nothing makes a monster hesitate like seeing its own reflection staring back without a word. And all those bridges you burned? Good. Let them light the way. You ain't going back, and you sure as hell don't need to explain why. They always come crawling when the fire dies down, don't they? All those people who couldn't bother to stick around when you were at your lowest, now they've got the nerve to ask what happened, like they weren't the ones who left you in the dark to begin with. They don't deserve your words. They don't deserve anything but the silence and the sight of your back walking away. You keep talking, keep trying to make them understand, and all you're doing is giving them another chance to hurt you. So stop. Save your breath for the climb. The view's better at the top anyway, and the silence up there? Deafening. Let them think you're cold, heartless, arrogant, whatever helps them sleep at night. The truth is, silence ain't about pride or revenge. It's about respect for yourself, for the pain you survived, for the lessons you learned the hard way. Words are for apologies and explanations and promises, and you don't owe them any of that. Silence is for survivors, the ones who've seen too much, felt too much, and have nothing left to say. And make no mistake, kid, you survived. Maybe not the way they wanted you to, all broken and begging for scraps, but you did. You climbed out of that pit with bloody hands and empty eyes, and now they want to know why you won't talk? That's rich. It's simple, because they wouldn't understand. They never did. They heard your screams and called it weakness, saw your tears and called it guilt. They listened to the cracks in your voice and thought it was an invitation to dig deeper, to twist the knife a little more. But silence leaves no cracks. It's smooth, unyielding, impossible to twist or break. They can't stand it because it leaves them alone with the truth. The truth that they lost, that you walked away without a word, and that no matter how loud they shout, you ain't ever coming back. And don't even get me started on closure. That's the cruelest lie of all, that you need to hear some magic words to move on, to bury the past. Nah, kid. Closure's just a fairy tale they sell to keep you waiting by the phone, hoping for an apology that ain't ever coming. The only closure you need is the sound of the door slamming shut behind you. Silence is the period at the end of the sentence. They don't get an explanation, a goodbye, a last chance to make it right. They made their choice the moment they thought you'd always be there, waiting, begging, explaining yourself like a fool. So let them talk. Let them drown in their own excuses, their own lies. You just keep quiet, keep walking, and let the silence be your answer. People think silence is empty, dead air, nothingness. But that's the joke, see? Silence is full of everything they don't want to hear. Regret, guilt, fear. It's the loudest sound there is. And when they finally understand that, when the silence starts to echo louder than their own screams, they'll wish you'd said something, anything, just to make it stop. But by then, it'll be too late. You'll be long gone, and all they'll have left is the silence and the memories of what they did to deserve it. That's your power now. Not the words you could say, not the revenge you could take, but the silence that leaves them wondering, hurting, regretting. The silence that makes them see what they've done and know, deep down, that there ain't no coming back from it. Keep it. Wield it. Let them choke on the words they'll never get to hear. Your silence will speak what words never could. And when they're finally on their knees, begging for an explanation that'll never come, just smile, turn away, and let the silence answer for you. And don't get confused. Silence doesn't mean forgetting. Forgiveness, maybe, but forgetting? That's for fools who haven't learned their lesson yet. You remember every scar, every betrayal, every knife twisted in the dark. You remember it all, but you don't wear it on your sleeve like some sob story begging for sympathy. That's the trick, see? You let the silence hold all that pain. Let it sink deep into the bones, cold and heavy. People think you're over it because you don't talk about it, because you don't flinch when they mention names and places that should have left you in pieces. But inside, you're a graveyard, quiet, vast, and full of everything they buried alive. That's where your strength comes from, kid. Not from moving on, but from carrying it all without a sound. They'll never get it. They'll spend their days running from the silence, filling the void with noise, new faces, empty promises, hollow laughs that don't even reach their eyes. But you've made peace with it. You've sat in the dark long enough to know that silence isn't empty. It's the only place you can actually hear yourself think. It's where the truth gets loud, where all the lies fall away, and you're left with the raw, brutal reality of what you are, what they made you. People think strength is about pushing through, never stopping, never breaking. But the real strength, it's in the pause, in the quiet moments where you face everything you've been running from without turning away. You've done that. You've walked through hell barefoot and came out the other side without a word. Let them wonder how you survived. Let them fear the answer. They'll say you've changed too. That's the best part. They'll whisper it like an accusation, like they ain't the ones who set the fire and watched you burn. You're different, they'll say, like it's a crime. Like you're supposed to stay the same fool who forgave too easily, loved too blindly, bled too freely for people who never gave a damn. But the truth is, you didn't change. They just never bothered to see you until the silence made them look. All that pain didn't turn you into someone else. It just stripped away the lies, left you bare and bleeding but real. And they hate that. They hate that they can't guilt you back into the box, can't talk their way back into your good graces. They hate that your silence is the sound of freedom, and it's deafening. And you gotta understand, most people ain't sorry for what they did. They're just sorry you found out. Sorry you finally stopped playing dumb, stopped accepting apologies that tasted like ashes. That's why they want you to talk, to work things out, to give them another chance to slip the knife back between your ribs. But you're smarter now. You've learned that the only apology that matters is change. And they ain't interested in that. They just want things back the way they were, with you on your knees and them on their pedestal. That's why the silence scares them, 'cause it means you've seen the game for what it is, and you're done playing. And then there's the guilt, that sweet, rotting guilt that silence brings. They'll drown in it eventually. That's the beauty of keeping your mouth shut. They can explain away your words, twist your reasons, make you out to be the villain in their little sob story. But silence is a mirror, and it don't lie. Every time they open their mouths, and all they get is cold, empty quiet, they'll hear it. The lies, the betrayals, the late-night confessions they thought you'd never figure out. Your silence will turn their minds into prisons. Every unspoken word, another bar on the cell. They'll lie awake replaying every conversation, every crooked smile, every time they laughed at your pain behind closed doors. That's justice, kid. Not revenge, justice. Let them rot in the silence they earned. And don't for a second think that letting go means you gotta forgive. That's another lie they push. Like you gotta let it all slide to move on. Nah, some things you don't forgive. Not 'cause you're bitter, but 'cause you finally respect yourself enough to draw a line. Forgiveness is a gift, and some people don't deserve what's in the box. Your silence is the price they pay for what they did. The cold, hard reminder that some things can't be taken back, can't be patched up with a few pretty words and a forced apology. They need to live with it, to see that closed door every time they look at you and know they did that. Silence is your verdict, and it's final. No appeals, no retrials, case closed. And let's be real. People love to act like they want the truth, but they don't. They want something that feels like the truth, that lets them keep being the hero of their own story. They don't want to hear that they're the villain, that they're the reason the bridge burned, that their lies and betrayals are why you don't answer the phone anymore. Silence makes them face that truth without you having to say a word. And that's what scares them most. That maybe you ain't coming back. That maybe the silence is forever. They'll tell themselves it's temporary, that you just need time to cool off, that one day you'll talk it out and everything will go back to normal. But deep down, they know. They know that silence isn't a pause, it's a full stop. And that's what you are now. The full stop at the end of their excuses. No more explanations, no more second chances, no more waiting for people who wouldn't cross the street for you if you were bleeding out on the curb. Silence is how you take your power back, how you remind them that you're done playing the fool, done explaining yourself to people who only listen to find a new way to break you. Let them choke on the silence. Let them hear it echo in every room you've left behind. You're not coming back, and they know it. That's why they're screaming into the void, hoping for any sign that you're still listening. But you ain't. Not anymore. Your silence is a funeral, kid. The final goodbye to everything you used to be. Everything they thought they could control. Let them mourn. Let them cry. Let them burn every bridge trying to drag you back into their chaos. You just keep walking. Eyes forward, mouth shut. Your silence will speak what words never could. And when they finally realize it's over, truly over, they'll wish you'd screamed, yelled, cursed their name. But all they'll get is silence and the memory of what they lost. That's justice. That's freedom. That's power. So hold on to that silence. Make it your weapon, your armor, your anthem. Let them keep talking, keep lying, keep pretending they don't care. In the end, the silence will swallow all their words, all their excuses, all their pretty little lies. And when the dust settles, all they'll have left is the sound of their own regrets echoing back from the walls you left standing. That's your victory. Cold, quiet, and complete. But here's the part that really kills them. The fact that you ain't bitter. That you're not out there screaming revenge, burning down what little's left of the bridges they torched. No, you just went quiet, cold, moved on without a word, like they meant nothing at all. And that silence, oh, it gets under their skin, eats away at them like rust on steel. 'Cause they wanted a show. They wanted to see you break, to hear you beg, to know that they still mattered enough to hurt you. But you denied them that satisfaction, left them shouting into the empty space you used to fill. That silence, that cold indifference, that's the wound that never heals. Every time they see you standing tall, eyes forward, mouth shut, it's just another knife between their ribs, twisting slow. And that's the irony, ain't it? They spent so much time trying to break you, to shut you up, to make sure your voice was just another casualty of their lies. But now that you're silent, now that you've finally stopped explaining, stopped justifying, stopped bleeding for people who never gave a damn, they're the ones who can't stand it. They're the ones screaming into the void, desperate for a reaction that ain't ever coming. That's the cruel joke. You've become everything they tried to be. Untouchable, unreadable, a ghost that haunts their every quiet moment. And they'll never admit it. But that silence scares them more than any words you could have said. 'Cause silence doesn't just mean it's over. It means they lost. And you know what really keeps them up at night? The thought that maybe you knew all along, that every word you didn't say was calculated, every step back was just another nail in the coffin of their little illusions. See, people love to think they're in control, that they're the ones holding the strings. But silence cuts those strings clean. It makes them realize they were never pulling you. They were just dangling, waiting for the moment you'd finally let go. And now that you have, all they can do is fall. That's the beauty of it. They'll never know what hit them, never understand how they went from calling the shots to staring into the dark, terrified of what you might do next. But the truth is, you don't need to do a damn thing. Silence is the executioner, and it never misses. They'll try to fill that silence, of course, with rumors, with lies, with sob stories to anyone who'll listen about how you changed, how you're the one who's cold and heartless now. Let them talk. Their words are empty, smoke in a windstorm. The truth is, they need the noise because they're scared of what they'll hear if things go quiet. They're terrified that the silence will tell them the one thing they can't bear to admit. That you're better off without them. That you've moved on. That their power over you is as dead as the bridge they burned. So let them fill the air with their lies and just keep walking, mouth shut, eyes forward. Every lie they tell is just another crack in the mask, another sign that they're the ones who can't let go. And here's the real kicker. Silence doesn't just make them question you, it makes them question themselves. When you stop explaining, stop defending, stop even acknowledging their existence, it forces them to face the one thing they've been running from all along, themselves. All those lies they sold to keep their conscience clean, all those excuses about how it was your fault, how you made them do it. The silence strips it all bare, makes them look in the mirror and see the monster behind the mask. And That's a pain they can't run from, can't lie their way out of. Your silence becomes their confession, every sleepless night, every nervous glance. Every time they flinch at the sound of your name, that's the power you hold now, and you didn't even have to lift a finger to get it. And don't think they won't come crawling back eventually. Oh, they will. Sooner or later, the silence will break them. They'll show up with apologies dripping from their lips, with shaky hands and eyes full of guilt, desperate to hear you say something, anything, that proves they still matter. But by then, it won't matter. By then, the silence will be all you have left to say, 'cause you'll see right through it, the empty words, the hollow regrets, the desperate need for absolution they ain't earned. They don't want to make things right. They just want the silence to stop. But you ain't here to be their savior. You're here to move on, to leave them drowning in the quiet they earned, to let the silence speak for every word you used, to waste on people who never listened in the first place. And if they think for a second that silence means surrender, they ain't learned a damn thing. Silence ain't giving up. It's giving up on explaining yourself to people who never wanted to understand. It's the difference between fighting a losing battle and walking away with your head high, leaving them shouting into the void with no one left to blame but themselves. Silence is the last word, the final chapter, the period at the end of a book. They ain't even realized you finished. So let them talk, let them scream, let them drown in their own words, while you walk away in silence that's louder than any lie they ever told. That's how you win. Not by fighting, not by explaining, but by leaving them to rot in the silence they never thought you'd have the strength to wield. And one day, maybe tomorrow, maybe years from now, they'll get it. They'll understand that every word you didn't say was a choice, a sentence, a life without parole. That you didn't go quiet because you were weak, but because you finally understood the power of leaving things unsaid. And when that day comes, when they finally see the truth staring back from the empty spaces you left behind, they'll wish they'd never opened their mouths in the first place. But by then, it'll be too late. The silence will have spoken, and the verdict will stand. That's how you make them pay. Not with words, not with revenge, but with a silence that makes them see everything they threw away. Let them scream into the dark. Let them beg for an answer that'll never come. Your silence will speak what words never could. And when the echoes finally fade, when all that's left is the quiet and the cold and the empty space where you used to be, that's when they'll understand. That's when they'll finally hear the truth you stopped trying to tell them a long time ago. But by then, you'll be long gone, and the silence will be all they have left. And that's the cruelest part of it all, ain't it? The fact that they'll never really know what did them in. They'll search every word you ever said, every look you ever gave, trying to piece together what went wrong, where they lost control. But the truth is, it was over the second you stopped talking. The second you stopped giving them the satisfaction of a response, stopped feeding their need to be heard, to be understood, to be forgiven, that silence was the death sentence. And they didn't even see it coming. They'll lie awake, nights stretching into years, tormented by every unspoken word, every question that never got an answer. And that's justice. That's the final twist of the knife, knowing they'll never get to hear your side of the story, never get the closure they need to make themselves feel better about the mess they made. They'll just have to live with it forever. And yeah, it gets lonely sometimes. Quiet has a way of doing that. There are nights when the silence creeps in, cold and heavy, and you almost think about picking up the phone, about breaking the quiet, just to hear a familiar voice. But then you remember the lies, the betrayals, the way they twisted every word into a weapon and smiled while they drove it in. You remember why you went quiet in the first place, and the urge dies in your throat. 'Cause some bridges ain't meant to be rebuilt. Some doors are better left closed. And the silence, as heavy as it gets, is still better than living with one more lie, one more fake smile, one more promise that falls apart the second it leaves their lips. You didn't go quiet to punish them. You did it to save yourself. And they'll never get that. They'll keep talking, keep lying, keep rewriting the story to make themselves the heroes who just couldn't save you. But that's not your problem. Let them have their fairy tales, their sob stories, their endless need to be seen as the victim. You've got bigger things ahead, roads that don't lead back, skies that aren't weighed down by clouds that should have passed a long time ago. Keep walking. Let the silence stretch out behind you, a path of all the words you didn't say, all the battles you didn't fight, all the lies you didn't need to expose. Let it follow you, not as a shadow, but as proof that you're done explaining yourself to people who were never really listening. In the end, silence is the only answer that matters. It's the period at the end of a story you stopped telling a long time ago. It's the weight that lifts when you realize you don't owe them a damn thing. Not an explanation, not an apology, not even a goodbye. Silence is how you win without fighting, how you burn bridges without ever striking a match, how you bury ghosts without ever digging a grave. Your silence will speak what words never could, of strength, of survival, of pain endured and overcome. And when they finally hear it, echoing in every empty space you left behind, they'll understand. Or maybe they won't. But by then, it won't matter. The silence will have spoken, and you'll be long gone, too far ahead to hear them scream. That's your victory, cold, quiet, and complete.